What's up, y'all? Sparty here. Apologies, this is going to be another walking video. But mainly what I want to talk about now, and it's kind of funny, me doing this, and it's pretty, bearing out due to the current, stuff going on in the world, but whatever. But yeah, what I want to talk about is, bigger channels, and I feel their lack of talking about a phone in the right way that isn't, your typical Samsung and Apple and maybe sometimes even OnePlus kind of conversation. And this has come a lot from, like, the V60 launched, what was it, last week or something like that, or at least a couple weeks ago. And no, I think it was last week. And apologies, there's a truck going by, but yeah, it's the nature of an outside video, right? And what I feel the problem with a lot of these reviewers is that they don't seem to want to talk about phones in a way that isn't just, oh, this phone doesn't do what this phone does, so this phone isn't worth it, type of deal. And it's kind of weird because I don't feel they look at a phone for what it is anymore, right? The V60 is out, and people are mad that it doesn't have a quad HD display or a 90 hertz, a 120 hertz panel, or even a 90 hertz panel. And initially I was kind of like, but it never really bothered me that much. And what seems to be the issue for me personally is that they'll hang it up on just that and not bring up anything else that the phone can do, and if it doesn't do anything better than these other phones. It's priced under the base S20, which means it's priced under all three of those phones, right? It has premium audio. The quad DAC is still there. It has, well, from what I hear, very good front-facing speakers. Well, not stereo speakers, not front-facing speakers. It's a big phone with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 1080p, 60 frames per 60 hertz panel. It's OLED still, so no one's going to be complaining about that. And it's hilarious because it's like, where were y'all when Samsung decided to make a base Note 10 cost $1,000, and it took out the headphone jack, it took out micro SD card support, it doesn't have a 4,000 milliamp hour battery closer to what the Note 10 Plus has. It doesn't have a quad HD display. Oh, but it has 256 gigs of onboard UFS 3.0 storage. So that's fine. But no one ever talks about the Note 10. And I've said this in a video before, but it's just hilarious to me that it's just hilarious when people just sit there and shit on the phone for what it isn't, right? The V60 is not going to be a pricey phone, albeit that being said, $800 is not necessarily cheap, but the V60 is not going to be a pricey phone because they want to focus on giving you a good experience first, right? A good flagship experience for even less than what flagships offer. The OnePlus 8 Pro, for example, might end up being around that price range too. Like the 7 Pro McLaren 5G was like $780 or something. And you add tax and stuff like that, that's an $800 phone. So you can't necessarily say OnePlus is still the price king when they still when they do stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If they want to finally make a flagship, or a phone that people would consider a flagship, I consider the OnePlus 6T a flagship still. Like, I don't care. It's just a cheaper flagship. And a lot of people are like, oh, but it's not in this price range, so it's not. Like, I get it. But what OnePlus does is that they support your phone way better than a lot of these premium brands do when you buy them on a carrier. I had Android 9 on my 6T way before I had it, unlike my G7 and stuff like that. But then again, that was back when LG wasn't the way they were with updates now, where they're actually getting better. So, you know. But yeah, it's like, the crazy thing, and this isn't just to sit here and crap on larger channels just to crap on them, because I don't care. This isn't my main revenue stream. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not even a revenue stream. So I'm not going to sit here and crap on every single big channel, but they seem to forget the fact that OnePlus has had 1080p displays on their phones. They ever since the first OnePlus, I think. I believe the OnePlus One had a 1080p display. I think it was, it was 1080p OLED. It took till the 7 Pro to put a 1440p panel, but they didn't just do 1440p 60 hertz, they did 1440p 90 hertz. And what did people say about that? Oh, who really needs it? Who really needs 90 hertz? Who needs a high refresh rate? It really does tax the battery. But Samsung comes out and they put out a phone with a 1440p 120 hertz panel. But out of the box, you can't switch it on to 1440p 120 hertz. You could only do 1080p 120 hertz, or I think it's Quad HD 90 hertz. It's been a while since I played with the S20. When I did, I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And they did say that out the gate. That's not necessarily a new thing, but it's just something I want to bring up, right? It's like, no one is talking about that. I know it's probably because Samsung wants to tune it so that it doesn't completely destroy the battery. But guess what? Phones like the ROG Phone 2 that have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, that have a 120 hertz OLED panel, have it and don't have an issue with it. So why not just do it, Samsung? And I believe they use Samsung panels. OnePlus uses Samsung panels. So I don't see why Samsung themselves can't do it. So that's always really been my thing. But you know, whatever. Yeah, for me it comes down to, ever since like the G4, these reviewers haven't been well, I guess the V10 people reviewed pretty fucking well, and the V20, but with the G line, it pretty much stopped with the G4, because the G5 is when people started shitting on LG, at least the G series, for good enough reasons. The G5 had its issues, but it was by no means a terrible phone. But yeah, it's like, I'm just trying to find a reason why people would just sit there and shit on a phone because it's not this other phone, when it's not even trying to be like that other phone, right? For years, Samsung was basically, I guess still technically, you could call it Android's iPhone, where they even would take design cues from like user interface and even the physical phone itself. And they would be in court disputes for that with Apple. Now that that's no longer a thing, what can you really say, right? And it's like, I feel, and this isn't me just trying to shit on Samsung for the sake of it, right? I'm using a Note 10 to record this video. Before Paul Revere comes out the woodwork saying the fanboys are coming or something like that, I just want to say that I don't hate Samsung. I don't even hate. I just am disappointed in the fact that reviewers don't review other phones that aren't Apple and Samsung in particular. They don't review other phones that aren't those in an unbiased light, And it's fine to have bias, We all have our preferences. When I look at my Note 10 and I don't have a headphone jack on it, it doesn't have a micro SD card, those are things that are going to gripe me about the phone, right? Those are the things about the phone that I would actually like. But, whatever. It's just something that I wanted to bring up because I feel these reviewers aren't giving these phones a fair shake. And there definitely are those that do. And they're the ones I follow. They're the ones that I tend to actually watch reviews of LG products on because they don't just sit there and say, "Oh, the V60 is bad." Like Jay Williams, for example, right? He's sitting there, he had his impressions for the phone, and he was like, "This is a monster." And it's like, yeah. And he basically says, he uses LG phones to record for his channel. I use various phones to, record for my channel. Sometimes I use the 6T, which might actually get phased out because of its weird, jello effect with focusing thing going on, which wasn't there before Android 10. The Note 10 is actually really good at recording video. I'm using Steady Record, that's why it's at a lower frame rate. So just keep that in mind. Another thing Samsung doesn't necessarily do as well as LG, right? With LG, you could do 60 frames per second Steady Record, I believe. Well, it's not called Steady Record on here, it's called stabilization. But let me check. Sorry, my fingers are in the frame. Go to video. Go to Steady Record. Let's go to settings. The fuck? I'll look at that later. But yeah, it's just the same deal. It's been this way for me personally since maybe the V30, when everyone shat on the V30. Because of its display issues, even though the Note 8 also had those same display issues. But whatever, right? But yeah, this is all I really wanted to say. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys feel. As always, have a good one.